So today I did a video of actually 4 videos timed together, so like a 20-minute video on basically the EPA data, explaining the what's known as the technology adoption life cycle, which is tied to the law of diffusion of innovation. And also I talked about a little bit about exponential function and how this is very, very critical, because ultimately exponential functions is any time that you have a percentage rate, like if you say, oh, we have a 1.5% population growth, or we have a 3%, well, we have a 20% plus B decline. That is so massive, it is catastrophic. So what it means is, in a very short period, I'm talking about years, the bees have reached a critical threshold that we risk wiping out our pollinators. I mean, we're doing it, people, because of these super pesticides called systemic pesticides, and Monsanto has adapted that technology into basically something called affecting their seeds, so their seeds are more resilient to pests. Well, unfortunately, these pesticides don't discriminate between insects, and whether you are a bee or you are some sort of grub eating the corn, right, or a beetle, guess what? Both of you are insects. And insects, these new super insect pesticides, are designed to exterminate insects, regardless, right, indiscriminately. So I've done this talk called The End of Bees, right, The End of Bees, and at the end I also talk about what we can do. The good news is we know good legislation control of pesticides works, because Carter enacted such legislation in the late 80s, 78, and for those years there was a recovery of bees. Bees will recover very quickly. That's the good news. They're insects. They'll recover, and ultimately we know we can save them, right? So it isn't doom. We're going to die. They're going to die. No, if we can pass and we can get active, then we can actually save them. And that's why the Coney 2012 framework that I've innovated, I looked at Coney 2012. I'm an innovator, right? I looked at what they did, and I said, well, how can we duplicate it very simply that anyone could do it? And how can we use such a framework for other initiatives? The simple fact is, we really don't need nonprofits anymore. We can do more as isolated individual headless, kind of like a amoeba, or whatever the fungus are, begins with an M, mycelium, right? Mycelium. Think of nonprofits are these huge trees. They only extend so far. They take a lot of resources to grow, and their impact is very limited, right? And they're not very efficient, right? Well, using this, what I'm calling the grassroots framework, where there's basically thousands of individuals like myself, I'm doing it. I'm doing bee habitats. I am, talking to schools. I'm talking to individuals. I'm being proactive in my community, right? By me educating someone, they're going to educate another person. They're going to pass the information. It's viral, right? This is what we need to do. We can't rely on politicians. We can't rely on nonprofits. We can't, because one is they're too slow and the situation is too severe, and two is inefficient. And we can do more sooner than by ourselves, and to pressure them quicker, right? And Coney 2012 did that. Supposedly they went to the legislation and said, hey, let's do this, and they said it's not possible. They're not going to change policy. They did. Now understand, let me just say this, I don't agree with what the cause was about. Doing a witch hunt, regardless of how bad the individual is not the right course of action in my point of view. Because what happens is people manipulate witch hunts to take advantage of it. We're not doing a witch hunt here. All we're doing is saying, listen, the data is conclusive. EPA data from 1940 to 2012 clearly show that pesticides have been destroying bee habitat. We can look at what's known as, if we look at the growth of pesticides globally, you're going to see that innovation matches that decline, okay? As they get into specific markets based on what I discussed earlier called the law of diffusion of innovation, which is a law, okay? There's been so much work on this that it's not even funny. So the data is conclusive, there's no argument, and not only that, we know pesticides kill bugs, right? All right. So you can't argue that pesticides are not destroying the bee population, because they are. So, what we must not allow is Monsanto just bought a bee research group, right? Obviously, why? Because they want to ultimately try to argue that their pesticides didn't, or whatever, or they're going to try to hopefully create pesticides that aren't going to affect the bees. Probably can, who knows? But right now, what we need to do is stop using pesticides, especially in some controlled areas. So I'm trying to get Fukui as a green area where we limit the use. Number one, get rid of systemic pesticides until we know it. If we can run some pilots in regions like Fukui or other places in Japan, Japan is the #1 user of pesticides in the world. A little country like Japan is #1 in the world, uses more pesticides than the United States, uses more pesticides than China. You thought, how can that be? Well, pesticides are rather expensive, and the rice production is so important in Japan, and the government's willing to spend the money to subsidize and to make it possible. Japan is a wealthy country, right? So that's why. They have a lot of basically support from the government to pay for things like pesticide for farmers, because farmers really don't have a lot of money. So ultimately, and I know if we did this and we actually went dry for years, we know the bee populations would spring back in a mighty way, and all of a sudden we can even provide more evidence. So in conclusion, what I just want to say is it's up to you, all right? I'm just one guy innovating a framework that has shown success and ask you to participate in it. I'm not making any money off it. I just want to basically save our bees. And I hope that you will, this is what you can do, sign my petition, right? Sign any bee petition that is out there. That's a click and a sign. It's very simple. Now, if you're an early adapter or leader and you have a little time, then launch Save Our Bees group. Save Our Bees group, basically think of it as a town hall. We need 193 groups. We've got 190. We have 3. Okay, we have 190 to go. We have India. Japan was the first one. India was the second one. Belize was the third one. Belize. Someone from Belize jumped on, right? So Belize is on. With all respect, Jonathan. Surely you can step up and make a group. Invite 20 of your best friends and say, please help. Invite 20 of your best friends. If we just invite 20 of our friends, or you can do what I do, just invite everyone. This is that important. It's that serious. And if someone gets, upset, and there will be, because according to the law of diffusion of innovation, there's laggards. Laggards, no matter what you tell them, they're going to think that there isn't a problem. Okay, it's just, and that makes up 16% of our society. 16% of people are just, they're just not interested. They don't care. They just, they live in their own little world. So you're going to get some complaints, but bite the bullet, and explain to them. This is crucial, but we need you to understand this. The other thing that you can do is I hope those people who set up the groups will also launch a petition for their country, right? And we all cross-sign. I will send a message to everyone that signed my petition to sign your petition. I will send a message for everyone who signed my petition to join your group, okay? We have to basically, use social media to bring this about very quickly. Now, I strongly encourage you to vote with your stomach. Vote with your stomach. Stop buying organic food. Start buying organic food. Stop buying anything that is pesticide treated. Go to the manager and say, get the manager of the store and say, listen, I want to know which is not treated with pesticides. And make it a point, right? Because that manager is going to, all of a sudden they're going to ask him, why has his produce sales dropped off? I used to work at Cash and Carry. I used to work at Publix. I know, they're going to go, why is this dropped off? Why do we have all this, vegetables that we're not selling? And the guy can say, well, people are not buying it, right? When you see someone buying it, say, don't buy it. Buy organic. These guys are killing our bees, right? Be active. Explain. Carry a flyer. Hand out the flyers that I've created. Hand them out. Explain. I've explained in the videos, so you should be, be able to explain the information. And ultimately, the next thing is, I forgot what the next thing is. Right? Vote with your stomach. I guess that was it. So 1, sign a petition. 2, either join or start a group, right? 3, vote with your stomach. There was a 4th, but I can't remember what it was. But if you watch my talk, I explained, I have it at the end of the talk. Thanks, my name is Michael Trout. I live in Japan. I'm here. I'm actually right now headed to work, but I'm going to try to also, I get to actually go out and I have a small little bee habitat. I'm studying a whole bunch of bees on a tree. Pretty much they're all wiped out here. I've been able to find a few. Bees are here. They're not all gone. All right, that's the good news. But ultimately, what I need to do is to see if I can get them getting into these solitary bee habitats, and then ultimately see if I can relocate them to other trees. I bought grafting material. I'm going to try to graft this tree that they're on, start growing that tree in my area, right? So, ultimately, I'm doing what I can, as much as I can as one person, to help the bees in Fukui, Japan.